Brudiclad Telchor Engineer versus Teferi Temporal Archmage. I have great disdain for this commander. We will mulligan that, and that is better. It's not great, but it's better. We'll keep a mirror pool on top. And we'll hand it over to our opponent. Misty Rainforest on turn 1 into a tapped Steam Vents will do us just fine. And we'll throw it over to our opponent and wait for them to take priority. And there we go. Teferi Temporal Archmage is 4 mana. It's not 4 mana, it's 4 and 2 blue. 6 mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Look at the 2 cards on top of your library. One goes in your hand and the other goes on the bottom. And then the ability that makes him really powerful is untap 4 target permanents for only -1. And then he gets an emblem that allows you to play Planeswalker abilities at instant speed if he manages to get his limit break off. We'll go for Steam Vents in tapped, just like we said we would. And then we'll play our tap land, the Mirror Pool. And we'll throw it back over to our opponent, not managing to get any early game ramp in, unfortunately. Brudiclad Telchor Engineer gives our creature tokens haste. We get a 2/1 blue Mir token at the beginning of combat, and then we get to choose a token we control, and all of our tokens become a copy of that. So what we would really like to do is get into a big creature like Consecrated Sphinx and clone it, and then be able to make all of our tokens we already have a copy of said tokens. Oh, are we here? Yeah, we'll hold up Dualcaster Mage. Dualcaster Mage, when it enters the battlefield, copy an instant or sorcery, and we can choose new targets for the copy. We'll just have our opponent pay for the Mystic Remora here. The longer that goes on, the better. Does mean we kind of have to play around it, but yeah, if the game goes on, then that's better for us. We're not going to bother with a thirst for knowledge here. Go for a Dark Steel Citadel. And pass it back over to our opponent. Yeah, pretty slow early game thus far, but if they want to tap out here for the Mystic Remora, that's fine with me. We're not in too much of a hurry to be casting our non-creature spells. And a land here would be really nice. Command Tower is very good. And yet another land after this for a Consecrated Sphinx would suit me down to the ground. And they of course can't pay for the Mystic Remora there. Up to turn 6 and they only have 3 lands. We'll go for our Thirst for Knowledge here. And we will discard an artifact in Steel Hellkite. We can make a copy of that with the Felden of the Third Path if we want to. And this thing gets a counter on upkeep, doesn't it? Beginning of your upkeep, yep, it certainly does. We get a land and mana crypt, which is really good for us. So we can 3, yeah, that's 6. Now, unfortunately, we can't Consecrated Sphinx and make a copy of it. What we can do is go for this thing. So why don't we do just that? And then we'll hold up the Cyclonic Rift. I doubt we're going to be Cyclonic Rifting anything. But we get a free 2/1 Mir, and of course our tokens do have haste for as long as our commander is in play. Now what we can think about doing, yeah, it would be nice if we get down, we'll probably get down Felden, or another land would be really nice off the top. Then we could go for Consecrated Sphinx and a copy of the Consecrated Sphinx as well. I'm going to go for a tempo play here and try and bounce our opponents as foretold. They may counter that if they want to keep that thing sticking around. And this looks like a counter. I'd rather they counter the Cyclonic Rift. Yep, that's fine. I'd rather they counter that than our Consecrated Sphinx. That's not to say that they won't still counter our Sphinx, but the chance is certainly less. And we won the flip, so that's good. And into a mountain is also really good. Unfortunately, we are struggling on... I was hoping for Consecrated Sphinx into Quasi-Duplicate. Unfortunately, we're struggling on blue mana. I've just built this deck, so I don't know how good the mana base is on it, unfortunately. Still some tinkering to do, I feel. Okay, but they're F6'd. So that's good. That means that we can... Actually, we'll hold up Dualcaster Mage. And we do get another Mere token. And we can swing in with our commander also this time. And I don't suppose, actually, there's anything to stop us from using Mirror Pool. Mirror Pool is, well, the effect that we care about. We could use the top ability, but 4 and colourless, tap and sacrifice, create a token that's a copy of a creature you control. That is the thing that we're concerned with, but we can also copy an instant or sorcery that we control. But I don't suppose we're ever going to be making use of that. Turn to Frog. Yeah, that's unfortunate. There's nothing we can do about that. Yeah, we're just going to have to let that land. So we're not going to be drawing any cards off of our Consecrated Sphinx like we would have wanted to. Turn to Frog turns a creature into a 1/1 frog with no abilities. So that means that our Consecrated Sphinx won't trigger. I would have gone for Dualcaster Mage there, but our opponent doesn't have any creatures to turn to Frog. See if we can get away without bolting again. We certainly can. Wormcoil Engine. Now then, can we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so we can go for Quasi-Duplicate on our Wormcoil, not our Wormcoil Engine, on Consecrated Sphinx. And then if that doesn't work, we can always go for the Wormcoil Engine. And Quasi-Duplicate will turn our... Well, we'll actually get a token copy of Consecrated Sphinx, and then we'll be able to turn our Mirrors into that as well. Snap, return a target creature to its owner's hand. Yeah, there's nothing. Looks like we need more counter magic in the deck. Yeah, we're just going to have to let them do that, unfortunately, and we won't be able to replay our Consecrated Sphinx either. So why don't we force another counter spell out of their hand? Actually, we'll swing in first. We'll get another Mere token. And it doesn't matter what we choose, they all become a Mere token, no matter which token we choose. But what would have happened there? We would have got a copy of the Consecrated Sphinx off of the Quasi-Duplicate, and then all of our Mirrors would have turned into Consecrated Sphinxes, which would have been excellent to have during our opponent's draw step. See if they have counter magic for the Wormcoil Engine. They have Exclude. They get to draw a card and counter that. Might be making use of Felden of the Third Path, unless they can't deal with our army here. Managed to get out our Brudiclad around their counter magic, so it's been doing some good stuff for us. This might be an Evacuate. No, it's a Muldrifter. They hard cast that, so they get to keep it around. And as foretold, is up to 3 counters, so they might have a 3-mana counter spell for us. And a Sapphire Medallion. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just go for tails again. We always go for tails on Mana Crypt, and I don't suppose it matters. We have a land, which is good. That is 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. That means that we can go for Consecrated Sphinx. We unfortunately can't get a red source now with this Wooded Foothills, which is quite annoying. Felden of the Third Path doesn't get haste. Why don't we go for our Consecrated Sphinx and see if our opponent has a counterspell for us. If they do, we can go for Dualcaster Mage. Actually, no, we can't. That's an instant or sorcery. Right, I'm thinking of Mirror Pool. This is instant and sorcery we control. This is any instant and sorcery, so we can use this as counter magic if we want to. We'll get a mountain out with our Wooded Foothills. Unfortunately, we haven't drawn into any of our basic islands, of which we have plenty in the deck. So we'll just go wide on our opponent here and make them a copy of all the other mirrors we control. Yeah, and we can just swing in, go wide, and we'll knock our opponent down to 2 life as it stands now. And then what we might be able to do next turn, yeah, we get to draw a couple of cards. I mean, it looks like this game is pretty much under wraps. It hasn't really shown off what Brudiclad can do. Brudiclad? Yeah, Brudiclad. I'm scared that I'm getting all these names wrong. I'm not the best with names at the best of times. Draw cards equal to the highest CMC amongst permanents you control. That's 3. Let's see if our opponent wants to counter this. I wouldn't mind going for one of those. We'll get 6 cards off of this. Unless they want to counter it, of course. Okay, they go for Mindbreak Trap, which is exile a spell if an opponent has cast 3 or more. Oh, okay, they've done that off of the As Foretold, so that's no problem. That at least gets it out of their hand. But I don't see what they can do here. We, of course, get to draw a load of cards with the Consecrated Sphinx, and you can, of course, imagine the type of triggers we'd be getting if we had all these as copies of Consecrated Sphinx. Yeah, I'm not sure what our opponent's hunting for here. I don't see what they can do. Yeah, and they just scoop it up. What we would have done next turn there is gone for the Saheeli's Artistry. And we would have created a token that's a copy of an artifact. We would have copied the Mir. And then we would have gone for... Or actually, we could have gone for the Mana Crypt and then tapped it for mana. And then with the other ability, made a copy of the Consecrated Sphinx. And then made all of our tokens, including the tapped Mana Crypt, a copy of Consecrated Sphinx. So that's the type of stuff that we want to do. Unfortunately, against control deck, we're not always going to be able to do it, but why don't we see what we would have drawn from Consecrated Sphinx. That's 4, 5, 6, and then 4 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, so, well, the screen's just cut out, so I'll have to freeze that for all of you. As you can see, we got into more clone effects there, some of which are instant speed. And, yeah, I think there's a little bit of tinkering left to be done with the deck, a little bit more ramp, and maybe some more counter magic. But it seems to be pretty successful thus far, so I will continue on and try and get us a half-decent game. I'm Tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.